Immediate updates here on Justice. He's still being evaluated. Obviously, before the game, we'll have some type of update on his status. Obviously, preparing relatively quick turnaround for, I think, a really good Xavier team. They, as a lot of college basketball, they're old. Scruggs has really been a tremendous player there. I believe he's a top 30 recruit going into his 5th year, which is a really unique in today's game when you have a recruit of that caliber going into his 5th year. So he's a fantastic player. They play hard. They're well coached, they're a veteran group that has been close to the tournament the last couple of years. I know they're a hungry group. Travis and staff do a great job, and be a tremendous environment and great challenge for us here. Not just obviously being an in-state opponent, but they're a good team. I think going to have a very good year.
Chris, I doubt you even need to explain to the guys, what this matchup is. It's a big game. Everybody knows it. But how do you look at it? When you were in Indiana, these teams kind of played a lot. There's been 2 games since 35 between Ohio State and Xavier. So
is that
it's
right?
one that Ohio basketball fans really want to see. But how do you your thoughts going into it, knowing that?
Yeah, no, I think that's one of the benefits of the Gavitt games is you have these matchups that for whatever reason haven't happened outside of the tournament. I know the one was in the NCAA tournament, a whale of a game that was, and I'm not sure what the other one was.
The
NIT, okay. So, I just think, again, we've not been opposed to playing, in our time here, we've not been opposed to playing some other power conference in terms of basketball, power conference school, which obviously the Big East is an outstanding league. We've not been opposed to that. We did it with Cincinnati. So I think it's good for college basketball in general. And I didn't know it was as infrequent as that, to be honest with you. I wasn't aware of that. But it's a great test for both teams here, really.
I heard you, just sort of something about constructing a schedule. I heard you on the post-game show on the radio, and you were talking about, wanting to maybe do more of this. You preferred home and homes. You were a guy, just your mentality.
Yeah.
You like home and return trips. That's not what this is. Are your hands kind of tied as a coach and guys that construct the schedule because just the way it is? You've got holiday tournaments. You've got ACC Big Ten Challenge. This seems like it's kind of tough to find those opportunities even to do it.
Yeah, I tell you, Tim, you can't find as many as maybe you used to be able to find. I'm just not a coach who would advocate for all neutral site high major versus high major games. I'm just not. I'm just in general, I've not loved that trend, to be honest with you, in the last maybe 10 to 15 years, because I think it takes away from fan bases who, we're part of what we're doing here is trying to kind of foster our game and help our game grow. And there's nothing like these type of environments that are at another school. So yeah, I think it's listen, it's a great challenge, and in scheduling we'll always try to do some type of home and home if we can, or true road game or true home game. But you're right, scheduling is different now between the Gavitt ACC Big Ten Challenge and between some of, we do want to play in an exempt tournament, and those are always neutral. So it's just a little bit different way of scheduling, but as much as we can, we do want to play a true road game before we get into, the best road environments in the league, or in the country. And that's proven to be the Big Ten. The last 44 years has led the country in attendance. It's the best environments in the country.
You mentioned Cincinnati a second ago. When you went there and started the season at Cincinnati, that team found a way to grind it out, and you knew that team was going to have some challenges that season. What did it take to win a game like that? And are there similarities maybe in that and to what you're going to face here tomorrow?
Yeah, I think for sure. Now, that was kind of the start of rebuilding our roster. And we had some guys like Caleb and other guys, CJ Jackson, who really kind of played well and gave us a lift that game. But as you recall, that was kind of our start of us rebuilding our roster. And we wouldn't have been in the tournament that year without that win. We might not have been in the tournament without that win and the win at Creighton. Cincinnati ended up being, I think, a top 5 seed in the NCAA tournament. So I think, there's some benefits, but obviously, there's a risk to it as well. And there's no question that it'll be that environment, which was a great environment, and some. I've played in the Chottenstein Center a number of times, and it's an electric environment.
How ready do you think your young guys are to go step into something like that? Because at least when you did play that Cincinnati game, you had some guys who had done some things like that. There's a lot of guys that will really be getting their first road environment almost definitely.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think given the COVID year,
Right.
I think you've seen some of that, Adam, how unique it's been. I think it could be at times. Hopefully we'll settle in. I'm sure it could, in times it could be a shock to our system, but hopefully we'll settle in and find the way to focus on kind of the task at hand. That's really the challenge for athletes and coaches.
Hey Chris, you were talking Monday about just how integral Justice Stewing's versatility is.
Yeah.
And I'm curious about, is that something that you see an opportunity to develop in some of the other guys on your roster? Is that a process, do you think that's possible to develop that versatility to kind of fill Justice Stewing's position?
Yeah, the guys that played, that kind of play his positions or played behind him, they're just different players. And it's not good or bad, they're just different. And they also haven't quite yet, he was a pretty accomplished player, a double-figure scorer on a 20-win team who would, I think at times last year, was playing as well as anyone. So I think what it provides is an opportunity for guys behind Justice to now grow into who they are as players and play to their strengths and contribute what they can contribute. And they don't need to be Justice. They need to be the best versions of themselves. And we're not trying to take any of them and turn them into Justice. They have strengths of their own.
Who are a few of those players that you've seen maybe over the course of practices that have kind of stepped up and be like, yeah, this could be my role until Justice has the opportunity to come back?
Well, I think the obvious ones are the ones that have kind of played those wing positions, which are Justin, Gene, and Malachi. Those guys are kind of the obvious ones.
Specifically with some guys on Xavier, Scruggs, you mentioned obviously what makes him stand out and how do you approach defending a guy like that when you look at your backcourt and some of the wing guys?
No, I just think he's a really talented kid. He's a really talented kid and has been that way. I followed him in high school. He's a big guard. He's led the league in assists the last couple of years. He's a 3-level scorer. On top of that, he's a 2-way player. He's an excellent defender. Again, he's a first-team All-League guy for a reason. But it's just a rarity when you have a recruit of that caliber who's now going into his 5th year. And I think, again, he presents a lot of challenges. But he's not the only one. They've got talent across the board.
And how about Jack Nungy, of course, Iowa transfer? He had a big game against you guys, I think, last year in February. He's on this roster now. Does that present challenges to a guy like Zed Key playing the center position, given that Jack Nungy's like a 7-footer?
Yeah, Jack's a really good player and has I think he played well maybe at their place there. We won that game, but I just remember him playing really well. He's a really good player, really talented, can score inside and out, great length, can rebound it, makes threes. He's going to be a great asset for them.
And it seems like they've only played 8 guys, I think, in both of their first 2 games. And you guys obviously have a deeper bench this year. It seems like, is that something you can maybe take advantage of in this matchup?
Oh, I think in when it comes to bench play, usually your advantage is over being able to absorb an injury or 2 or over the course course of the season. I don't think one game, your bench necessarily makes a huge difference.
So we talk a lot about learning from guys in games because that's the best way to evaluate talent. Maybe same thing with coaching staff. You're 3 games into having Tony on your staff. What has it been like seeing him in game situations and just having him as an assistant coach?
Yeah, Tony's done a really good job, and I'm excited to kind of grow together as a staff. Obviously, we have some guys we've been with for a while, and I think that's helped Tony as he's kind of transitioned here. But I'm really pleased with Tony's work, his recruiting, his attention to detail, his relationship building. All those things have been real positive.
What kind of impact has he made? Like, what sort of things? I feel like it's always hard for us to evaluate what assistant coaches might do in the course of a game unless you maybe bring it up specifically. But what touches have you seen him have on the early part of the season that we might notice?
Well, I just think a set of eyes. Obviously, came from a good program. We saw that last night with Seton Hall. So I think just a different set of eyes, a different perspective, and a guy who was a really good player. But I just think another set of eyes. He handles all the personnel too on our staff. So he's got good observations there. But again, he's growing into his role just like any kind of first-year player would too. I think he's still trying to figure some things out himself.
Well, last set of questions here with Patrick.
I know you are one game at a time, but you obviously have this not road trip, but you will be on the road, and especially when you go to Florida. You hear in the NBA all the time, these road trips can help bring teams together. They can, help bond a team, things like that. Being able to do that here early in the season, what can that do for a team that's still figuring some things out?
Yeah, Patrick, it's one of the reasons I like doing it. I just think you get some time together, you get some time away from campus, and you're also playing some really good teams. So I think all those things are benefits. A chance to get away. I think here it's a good thing too because I think it gives us a chance to get away, and I think there's an attention level here that gets ramped up around here in terms of basketball as we get into kind of January and when football ends. I think right now having an opportunity to kind of get away and spend some time together and play good teams in a different environment is a good thing.
Coach, you got one more?
Yeah,
thing?
just quick. You coached in the league. Tell me if it's a myth or not. It just feels like Big East teams, the guards are just great. I mean, Jones is another good one, the sophomore
Yes.
for Xavier. And
Yeah.
Seton Hall had 2 really good ones last night.
Yeah, I sure did. Jones is a really good player, I think, you see that a lot with Big East teams, where, guards, our best teams, we finished second twice, tied for second once, and then I think maybe solo second another time in the league. And our guard play, the 1 year when we went to the Sweet 16 was deep and pretty talented. And I think you need that in a league like that. It's just a little bit of a different league than the Big Ten. Really good coaches, really high level quality of play. It's just a little bit different in how it's played.
That's one more thing real quick. Just because I asked both the players about it, and they were vaguely familiar with Kyle's phrase, but when Ron Lewis hit the shot against Xavier, as someone who is in the college basketball world, do you remember that moment? Were you watching that game? Have you, since you've been here, how many times have you seen that clip? I don't know, any thoughts on that?
Well, I saw Ron after our Akron game and introduced my daughter to him and told her that this is the guy who hit one of the most iconic shots in Buckeye basketball history. So I was introducing her to he and Jared. It's good to see Ron. Ron's been back around the program, and it's a great win. One of those, obviously that was a phenomenally talented Ohio State team. But when you're playing that 1-8 or 1-9, I forget what it was, that's a really tough game. So it was an active game. I don't remember where I was or if I was watching it, but obviously I've seen it